welcome back to my channel. It is Amanda. Today I'm going to be reviewing the palettes that I used in September and then also showing you the palettes that I picked out in October. If you are new, hello, it is Amanda. I have been choosing 10 or 11 palettes each month to rotate through my palette collection since I have so many because I love eyeshadow palettes, to get more use out of them and then also sort of hopefully declutter as I go. I have 11 palettes for September and let's get to them. So last month I randomly generated palettes that I hadn't used yet this year. Those are the palettes that I used for the month. So the first one was the Milani Bold Obsessions palette. I do love this palette, but I'm leaning towards decluttering it because I just definitely have these colors in other palettes and I don't know, I like this palette, but I'm leaning towards decluttering it since I didn't reach for it as much as I thought I should. So this is kind of in the maybe pile for now. This line from Milani, this eyeshadow line, is lovely. This is not the line they have anymore. The next one is the Dominique Cosmetics Lemonade palette. This was sent to me by my friend Heather. And this palette is lovely. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this palette. The formula is fine. The colors blend well. This Blueberry Fizz shade is more purple than blue, but it's fantastic. However, I'm also going to pass this one on because I just don't need it. I was making myself use it. I'm going to pass it on because it's barely used, so I wanted to pass it on also so I can still get some use out of it. It's beautiful. I'll insert a picture of the look I did with it, and I think that I also have a reel on my IG page using this. It's lovely. There are a bunch of ColourPop palettes in here, by the way. The next is the Make Up Your Mind palette from ColourPop. And I hadn't really used this that often, and holy moly, this palette is beautiful. The shimmers are extremely shimmery. This silver is like liquid metal. There's sort of a blue-brown shade in here. I don't ever really love this shade on my lids. I don't like it as I'm applying it, and then when I'm all done, I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty, but I just don't reach for that type of shade. The other three are absolutely beautiful. This is a teal, this yellow is stunning, and then this purple is, I mean, this was, I don't even know, what was this? Was this like a gift with purchase, or it's a couple years old. You definitely can't buy it anymore, but it's a really nice little palette. Okay, the next one is Flutterby, and this is another ColourPop palette. The graphic design, the cardboard design is beautiful. This is a very cool toned purple palette. I was reaching for this one a lot. This is the one I used the most last month, and I had to sort of make myself stop wearing it because these are very easy shades for me to wear. This is a color that I really like on my eye color and skin tone. So I was using this one a lot. I love this palette. I don't know if it's still available. You know, ColourPop releases and discontinues stuff very quickly, so there is one pressed glitter in here. I didn't use it, but it's pretty. If you do use pressed glitter, it is a pretty one. I will say this one feels like it has a little more base to it, so it doesn't feel as like crumbly as some of the pressed glitters do. I should have probably used it. The next one is the So Jaded palette. I love this palette. This is a gorgeous palette. It has just about everything in here. Just about every color you could need in here. I do think that the new It's a Mood palette is extremely similar to this, so if you have this, I think the new one looks very close to this, and if you don't have this, maybe grab the It's a Mood palette because there are a lot of very similar tones in here. There's a Super Shock shade in here. There are two pressed glitters, this guy and this guy. And then a mixture of mattes and metallics. It's just a real nice palette. Next we have the Lilac You a Lot palette. So this is their purple monochromatic palette. I love purples. I think purples with greenish hazel eyes, which is what I have. It's a really nice color combination. This is an older palette at this point, so the formulas are definitely improving as we get newer and newer ColourPop palettes. I really don't think the formula is bad on this. This is sort of like a purple pinky duochrome. I don't think you can really see that. It's a mild duochrome, but I'm keeping that one. And then also, of course, keeping Just My Luck. It's green, so obviously the greatest color scheme in the world, this Mary Jane color. Love it. Love it. I actually love this as an inner corner highlight when I wear this palette. I think it's so fun and bright. Notice how I never take the plastic off the mirrors because I never use the mirrors. I wish they didn't even have mirrors. Next one is the Aura and Out palette. This one I will probably be passing on. Again, I don't really wear pastels that often. I like this Soul Sister shade. This is a Super Shock shade. It's also not like the most amazing shade in the world. There's a pressed glitter in here, and then there's a white shade, which I honestly don't even know if I have a white eyeshadow other than this one. I just didn't reach for this one that much, and I wasn't finding myself wanting to reach for it. That could be the time of year, but I just don't use pastels that much, so I'd pass this one out. Alright, next we have Fade into Hue. This is another of their mega palettes. I think this is beautiful. I love the color stories that are a row. A mixture of mattes and shimmers. I mean, who doesn't love a rainbow palette, right? Next we have Big Poppy. This is their orange all matte monochromatic palette. Perfect for this time of year. I'm keeping this. I love this one. And then lastly we have Boudoir Noir. This is a beautiful greenish gold. It's olive green is what drew me in because I'm a sucker for olives. There's a pressed glitter in here, but this one feels like it has even more like adhesive base to it, and it's a beautiful glitter. I mean, look at that. And then there's almost no glitter left on my finger. I feel like that's a good sign. And then the olive. Oh my gosh. The olive. People weren't loving on these as much as they should be, in my opinion. I like this palette a lot. Alright, now we're going to talk about the palettes that I picked in October. Again, I randomly generated palettes from the numbers in my little spreadsheet that hadn't been chosen yet for the year. This was the Nabla Secret palette. I always call this a Secret Garden palette. It's not called the Secret Garden. It's called the Secret palette. There isn't really a theme to any of these. Some of these will be seasonally appropriate and some of them might not be, but I just randomly generated some numbers to use some palettes. It's very pretty and I think it works for fall as well. I just haven't really used it though. This Creation Crown color is. But then there's like this random pink in here, so I don't know. It's a curious color story. The next one was the Milani Soft and Sultry palette. This is the cool toned like taupe version of the Bold Obsessions palette. So we will see how I feel about this. There are of course more ColourPop palettes because they make up the largest portion of my makeup collection. So we have the Honey palette. I love this. I love yellow eyeshadow. There's a pressed glitter in the middle here. Not going to be using that, but a lot of beautiful honey yellow shades. And then we have another Nabla palette. This is the Side by Side palette, and this is a very neutral palette, but I quite like this palette. This one is probably my favorite. I haven't used it as much as I should, but this Love Ritual shade down here is like what taupey dreams are made of. And then also Better Society right here. It's kind of this is almost like a topper shade. Yeah, so very neutral, but I think like also very seasonally appropriate. I'm really into that, which is why we're using Cloud Spun. Actually, we're using Cloud Spun because it was randomly generated. This one is impossible to open. This is their very pink, I guess, monochromatic palette. There's another pressed glitter in the middle. And I don't think I've used this palette yet. There's some pink looks in October. Another one that's no longer available is Lovebird. This one has 3 pressed glitters in it, which I don't know that I realized that when I bought it. I don't really know what I was doing. So I'm not going to be using like a third of this, although I do think that you can use these in like nail art and stuff, which would be really fun. So maybe I'll try to do that. Although this middle shade, Cheap, kind of looks awesome. And looks nothing like it does in the pan. Then we have Smoke Show. Yes, mine is called Smoke Show, not Blowing Smoke. I think I bought this right before they renamed this. I'm not sure why they renamed it. I feel like I knew at one point and I don't remember. And this is like, you know, smoky eye dreams. I don't often do a black smoky eye. I will be in October. Alright, we have 2 more ColourPop palettes and then 1 non-ColourPop. So the Rendezvous palette, I think, was this an Ulta exclusive? This is no longer available, but this is like the most beautiful fall trio of colors you can imagine. Catch, oh, it feels so creamy. and release. This one feels a little bit dry, so I'm gonna rough this one up a little bit and then shake it off. I mean, can you imagine a more beautiful trio for fall? And then the last ColourPop is the Cherry Crush palette. This is a newer palette. There's a row of pinks, reds, and maroons. I have only used this palette once so far, so I'm excited to work it in. It's hard for me to use palettes that like are new while I'm also trying to use existing palettes. I guess I'm just like not competent enough to figure that out. The last palette is the Lorac Pro Noir palette. This is so beautiful. I fully intended to buy the Soleil version, which is like the warmer version, during the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty, and it just sold out immediately, so I didn't buy it. This is lovely. I've not used it very much, but I'm excited. That is my recap and the palettes that I will be using in October. What are you using in October? What did you use in September that you loved or disliked? But what did you use that you want to tell me about? Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will talk to you in my next video.